How many of you made a New Year's resolution? How many of you are still alive? It's the 4th. 3 days down. We're going to spend some time over the next about 10 or 12 weeks looking at some things, some basic principles that I think can help your life. They've helped mine. And, I've given a lot of thought, a lot of prayer to these things. Today we're going to head to the book of Judges, which is in the Old Testament. If you have your Pew Bible, you might want to go there. We're not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to allow you to read the story yourself. We'll get into Judges chapter 6 and the particular scriptures that we need. I'll refer to as we get there. Today's message is entitled Playing to Your Strengths, or Keys to Winning in 2009. That's not just for us as a church, but for you as an individual, you as families, in your relationships, at work, all those good things. We're going to talk about some of those things over the next 3 or 4 weeks. The new series is entitled Investing in Futures. For those of you who are new with us or guests with us here today, for a while I was a financial advisor, and there's a reason why I'm not now. It's because God called me to ministry. It's not because I couldn't be a successful financial advisor, it's because God wanted me to do something else in my life. But one of the things that you can invest in are called futures. Futures meaning you can buy today based on a future price of an item. We had a guy at UBS, which is where I work. He and his son, the only thing they did was trade orange juice futures. And they represented the orange growers of Florida. And these guys made bukus of money. And all they did was trade orange juice futures. So those of you that are into the stock market and all that, 6 months ago, a barrel of oil cost $135, and now you can buy them for about $40. Okay, so if you bought futures at $135 for today, you lost $100 a barrel. So, oh well. But that's how it works. And investing in futures is taking a calculated risk on what you think might happen in the future. So we're going to talk about that for this month, and then next month will be a different subject. We're headed to Judges chapter 6. There's a story there about Gideon. We all like stories about winners. How many of you have seen the movie Rudy? How many have seen Facing the Giants? All right. We all like stories about winners. Nobody likes to read a story about a loser. None of us grows up hoping to someday be a loser. We all want to be winners. We want our kids to be winners. And in fact, I think in America we actually like to cheer for the underdog. When you see somebody that's in competition, there's something about the guy that doesn't have much chance that people root for him. Those of you that are golfers, last year in the U.S. Open, Rocco Mediate was in a one-person playoff with that other guy. I can never remember his name. Tiger something. And Rocco Mediate was the 148th ranked player in the world. Tiger's by far #1, and the whole world was pulling for Rocco. And it came down to one stroke. And in fact, they played an extra 18, and it still went extra. And Rocco hung in there, and there was just something really great about that story. In fact, it was voted the #1 sports story of the year because he didn't have a chance. There was no way that he should have even been in a playoff, let alone gone an extra 18 holes. Not only that, sometimes we think we're the underdogs. When we look around at our neighbors and the people we work with and the people that we go to church with, we look around and we see, oh, they're so much better off than I am. That situation's so much better than my own. And I think we think sometimes we're the underdogs. Now, I'm going to give you just a little secret. The top 5% of the world's wealthiest people are in this room. Did you hear me? Of all the people in the globe, you and I represent the top 5% of the wealthiest people in the world. That's pretty scary, okay? Because the reality is that by American standards, some of us are wealthy and some of us are middle class and some of us are not in those batches. But the reality is, compared to the globe, you and I are incredibly rich people. And not only are we rich in stuff, we're rich in opportunity, we're rich in privileges and rights that we have, freedoms that we have. We are an incredibly rich group of people. And sometimes I think when we start looking around and comparing ourselves to the Joneses, if your name's Jones, I ain't picking on you, but if you compare yourself to the Joneses, it's easy to see I'm the underdog. Now, in sports, people will tell you that it's easier to be the underdog than to be the favorite. Because the guy that's the favorite is trying not to lose. The guy that's the underdog is trying to win. And it's a completely different mindset. Completely different mindset. One team is playing aggressively, one team is playing defensively. And you don't want to be the one team that's favored by 30 points and then go get blown out by the underdog, which could happen, by the way, this Thursday night with the Florida Gators. But anyway, a whole other point. It's another sermon. In order to win, you got to know your opponent, you got to have a strategy, and you got to stick to the strategy. You can't research your other team, look at film, get an idea, know how this guy boxes, is he left-handed, right-handed. You got to come up with a strategy, but then you got to stick to it. Do you remember Rocky? Oh, it was like, what, Rocky 27? Isn't that how many there are? But remember Rocky, he fought in 1 and then 2. When he fought Apollo Creed the second time, what happened? He fought the other-handed, right? And so that was part of his strategy, was to flip around because it was going to be different. And you and I, what happens to me is I come up with a plan, and I get going down my little merry way, and the opponent, whatever that may be, throws me a curveball, and all of a sudden I deviate from the plan. But after having thought about it, and really given it a lot of thought and planning, I should stick to my plan. Because if you get off the track, pretty soon you got to come back to it anyway, and you've just wasted time in the process. Have a strategy, stick to the plan. Okay? Let's pray. God, ask us today to consider the truth in our own hearts. Ask every one of us, whisper to us, do you have a plan? What's your plan? Are you sticking to it? In Christ's name, amen. The song said, Lord, I'm amazed by you. And I think God sometimes sneaks up on us. You know, I remember those games when I was a kid playing hide and go seek. It's one thing to be found, but it was always better to jump out and scare somebody. You know what I mean? Getting found is okay, but if I can make you scream, I win. And I wonder if God's not that way sometimes. And I wonder if today's not one of those times. Because the verse said, Lord, I'm amazed by you. Not that you feed me, not that you put food on my table or clothes on my back, that you love me. Because of all the things He could provide for us, the love is the part that's the most astounding. Because we didn't deserve that. And I want you to think about that today. How He's going to amaze you in the next 20 minutes and show up and say something to you maybe you've never heard before. Because He can do that. Because He's God. And I want Him to jump out and scare us. I really do. I want Him to jump out and go, boom. How many of you saw The Grinch That Stole Christmas? The Jim Carrey version. I love that part where he flies down into town and we're all staring at him going, boom. And they all sort of, I love that part. That's what I want God to do today. I want Him to shock us to get our attention. New day, new year, new chance. How many of you are familiar with the story of Gideon? You have some idea what it's about? Those of you that are familiar with the Gideons, I would assume that you two guys do. Right? Gideon's a guy in the Old Testament. We hear a lot of things about Gideon. And there's two elements of the story of Gideon that we always talk about. One is him going into war, and one is the thing about the fleece. Okay? And I want you to read the story of Gideon on your own because it's quite a marvelous story. But here's what I want to talk to you about. Gideon was more than an underdog. The ultimate underdog is Charlie Brown. Can I get an amen from the people? Charlie Brown, he was an underdog. And he got all these people around him messing with him. Right? All he wants to do is kick the football. Quit yanking the football. Right? And we root for Charlie Brown. And when Charlie Brown finds his little Christmas tree and it's nasty and it falls over, and we all feel that sense of awe. Right? And then Charlie Brown at the end and all the, oh, that thing, you know, and then we all celebrate when Charlie Brown wins because we can all relate to Charlie Brown. Gideon was a Charlie Brown. In fact, he was worse than a Charlie Brown. Look what it says in verse 14 of chapter 6. It says, the Lord turned to Gideon and said, I want you to go in the strength that you have and save Israel. Now, the Israelite people were being oppressed by the Midianites. And he says to Gideon, I want you to go take care of this. And am I not sending you? This is God talking to Gideon. Am I the one who's sending you? And then Gideon says, Lord, how can I do that? It says, my clan, my group of people, my homies, we are the weakest in the neighborhood. And more than that, I am the least in my own family. So this is the runt of the runts. That's what this is saying. I am the least of my clan, and my clan is the least of the whole country. How in the world am I going to take care